Yep, got it.
Beautiful, babe. Let me just check that we're streaming and we will be good to go.
Awesome.
I see us. Let me see if I hear us. We are.
Awesome.
We've
Cool.
done it. We've done it.
We did it finally.
Let's
Got there.
do it. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Makeovers podcast. Today, I have a Geelong local with me. I'm so excited to finally get the chance to actually sit and talk to her because mum life and just life in general has us crossing paths on Instagram, but never actually in person. So, this is actually the first time we've had the opportunity to sit and actually look at each other and smile at each other. And so, Jess, I welcome you and I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Hello, I'm very excited too. This is my first ever podcast. So I'm very excited. A bit nervous, but I'm very, very excited. And I'm very excited to be able to see you too and have a chat to you. And one day it'll be face to face.
We'll make sure. I
Yeah.
actually pop a lot of podcast cherries.
Yeah, that's good. I love it.
I love it too. And so I would love, as we're talking about it, for you to share with any woman listening what made you decide that you were ready to kind of step forward, be seen in this capacity. I know you already lead within your business and within your community, but what made you feel like you were ready to use your voice and share yourself in this way today?
I think something that I've always done a little bit of. Sometimes I can be quite like out there and outgoing and quite upfront and everything. And people, if they know me, will know that that's generally what I'm like, sort of every day to day. But there's also been, things that have held me back from doing certain things, or moments where I'll be like, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or et cetera, et cetera. So when you asked me to do this, I just said to myself, like, who cares if you're nervous? It doesn't matter. You're going to do this because of late, like of the last couple of months, like I've really realized that what I have to say is important and it's impactful. And so, I think as women, a lot of what we have to say is very impactful, but we can feel quietened by, the world and people's perspectives and all of that sort of stuff. So I guess I just want to come out and like show, I guess, and lead the way. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. And I'm more over the last couple of months really realizing that that's what I'm doing. And I hope that, yeah, being able to do this and to be able to share that is going to help other women do that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when we allow ourselves to be an example for potential and possibility for anybody, the ripple effects of that are far greater than we can even like perceive for ourselves. And I have found too over the last couple of years of like just showing up and sharing, we first have to work out what we don't really mean or what we don't want to say or what doesn't sound right until we even kind of find our voice. I still don't think I have clarified exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it, but I just kind of I'm encouraged that every time I speak, I just hope I'm kind of giving myself the opportunity to feel into what's there and have a go at sharing it, right? Because there's so much within us. It's impossible to think we're just going to jump on a microphone and have it present perfectly. And I feel like this leads me into being able to ask you to talk about in your line of work, and you can tell us a little bit about your business. Um, what a disservice it might be to women if they feel like they have to be ready or they have to be sure or they have to be perfectly positioned to take a next step. And I know you have a wonderful fitness business, and I'm sure you've heard, like I've heard many times in the past, women saying, oh, I want to get started, but I'm just so unfit. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, yeah. So yes, I work in the fitness industry. I've got my own business, and I train mostly mums. And I've created a very awesome community down in Leopold. Oops, I don't know if you heard that or not, but my phone just went off. I have created a very, yeah, awesome community down there of lots of different women from all different walks of life. And I've definitely heard I'm just not ready yet. I'm so unfit. Or I've had people ask me about training. And that's one of the things that they say. They just go, I'm not sure how I'll go because I'm unfit, or I've never exercised before, or something like that. And what I say to a lot of them is we all start somewhere. we've all been in a position where we've been unfit. Everybody's fitness levels, as you know, are different. So no one person's unfit is the same, but we've all started somewhere, including myself. And I've had to take that step first to go into something. And all of my clients have done the same. And so often you have these women who come in and they might have been so nervous at their first session or at their second or their third. And then by the time they've gotten into it, they've gotten started, they've started to see changes and results, they always say, I wish I had done it sooner. I wish that I had, done this when I first saw it. I wish I had. And, I mean, I think we do that a lot of the time in life. We wish that we have done something, or we wish that we did that instead of actually just going out and doing it. And I think it's because we are scared of not being perfect. We are scared of not doing or saying the right thing. And I think that's just where, like you said, we aren't perfect and we definitely don't say the right things. And you might look back in a couple of years' time and go, oh, like, why did I say that? Or like, I know I definitely will. But at the time, I do believe that when we do things or do say things, it is the right time and it is the right thing to do. And so, yeah, I think, yeah, not being perfect I mean, being perfect is never going to happen. But also, you never know what it's going to be like until you try it as well. So, and I say that a lot of the time too. And again, like I said, when my clients come into our space, they never leave thinking, oh, I didn't get anything out of that or whatever. They always leave feeling better and feeling more confident and feeling fitter. So that's what I want. That's what I want to do.
Wonderful.
I don't know how to turn that off.
You're right, honey. You're right. We can all relate. A million things going at one time.
I don't even know how to turn it off.
All good. I think one of the things that has supported a lot of the women that I work with and that I have kind of been in connection with is exploring the concept of the power of the word maybe. Because a lot of the time when we're experiencing fear or hesitation or resistance or nervousness, our dialogue, our inner talk has convinced us that we're certain that we know how something is going to play out, right? We're certain that it's going to be X, Y, Z. And sometimes we're not even sure what we're even certain of. We just know it's going to be bad. And we're like just fully plugged into that reality being the only reality. Yeah. And I feel like the word maybe kind of lets us off the hook and gives us the exhale that we need to realize that, yeah, maybe that might happen, but maybe, and to give yourself the opportunity to think, well, what else could happen? What other infinite realities could be available to me? And do I know that what I'm thinking is going to occur will absolutely occur? Is that the thing that could occur? Could there be something else that might happen? So did you want to speak to the benefits of a community like yours, a business like yours, and what is also found there beyond just the obvious like health and fitness benefits? What else does somebody gain from coming into a space like yours?
So I started doing what I do, the group fitness side of things, when I was up in Queensland with my sister. She's a PT and she's a huge inspiration for me. And so she did group fitness things. So when I moved up there, I had always dabbled in fitness, like, here and there. But as I was kind of 18, 19, 20, we all, spend a bit more time doing other things. And our health necessarily isn't 100%. So it was never something, I'd kind of start things and then start and stop, which again is something quite a lot of us have done. And so when I moved up to Queensland and started doing group training with her, I just fell in love with it. And I fell in love with the community vibe. I fell in love with the fact that we are all there doing the same thing. We've all started somewhere. And I was just so inspirational. I was like, this is just amazing that you're here at 60 years old, training and doing a lot of the things that I was doing too. And then so when a couple of years down the track, I'd moved back to Victoria. I'd had Scarlett, my first daughter, and I was in a small country town and they didn't really have anything like that. And I had done my PT course. So I was like, okay. I was like, I'll start and do some group fitness. And so I started that. We ended up moving to Geelong. And then that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to do this for mums. I didn't have anyone around. Like we didn't have any family. Matt's brother, I think he did live here for a bit, then moved to Melbourne, but we didn't have anybody to look after Scarlett, our daughter. So I had to go, okay, what am I going to do? And so I started Fit Mamas, which is what we do at the courts. And from there, I started with 3 or 4, I think. for our first session, and it's just grown. And we've had so many beautiful women come in and out, as they've, some have gone back to work or whatever it may be. And I think obviously the benefits are your health and fitness improve immensely. But the biggest things for me and the biggest changes that I see are people's mental health, the benefits of their mental health. And this is what they talk to me about too. They say things like they feel like they're a better mother coming to training and exercising. And, most people would know that mental exercise is great for mental health, but it's been amazing to have that community there. We're all mums. Some of us have got babies, books. So I love seeing the conversations that happen. We talk to each other about advice about the kids, or we complain about them, and there's no judgment there. That's always welcoming. It's always positive. And I think a huge benefit of having that is just having a community that's got your back, having people that you can talk to, and having people that have walked the same, or not the same journey, but have walked similar paths to you. And you're able to talk about it, and you'll have someone go, oh, I've been there. I've been there, done that. And it just makes you feel not alone. And for me, and I've made some lifelong creating these beautiful relationships with each other as well. I see the kids doing it. The kids are loving it. The kids are exercising, and it's just, there's just so many benefits to it. And having that community aspect is just, for me, and you would know the same with your gym too, I'm sure. It's just, it's just the best. And it's one of the reasons why people come to train. They come to exercise, of course, but they come because of the community and because everybody's welcoming, and it's fun.
I went with Steve and Tyson, my son, who's 4, yesterday to Tyson's little basketball practice. Big shout out to Lara Giants. And Steve actually coaches. They're like all under 5 years old. It's called the Pipsqueaks team. Anyway, and so Steve usually does that with Tyson. It's their thing on a Wednesday. I don't go, but I went yesterday because they were presenting little medals to them or whatever, So mum goes to take the photos and clap and be in the fields. And I was sat there with the other mums. There's, I don't know, 5 or 6 mums, and it was all boys in this group. And it was just all of our boys were just acting like 4-year-old boys. I'll let you kind of fill in the blanks there. And I said to Steve on the way home, it was so lovely just to be around other women that we just it was just these knowing smiles between us. And there was no sense of having to explain or apologize or justify anything. And I didn't realize how much, gosh, I really need to be in community of women who are in exactly the same chapter as me. Because often I look for inspiration, and I find people that are in different chapters, and I really love to have different perspectives. And I think sometimes we fail to realize how supportive it can be to just get around people that really get where we are. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And there's been times where I've gone down to training and, like I said, I'm a very upbeat person, but I've had, my demons and my mental health battles. And there have been times where I've gone down to training and, as the personal trainer, you got to be there and, put a smile on your face and be pumped up. And there's been times where I've gotten there and I've just cried and I've just said to them, I'm really sorry, but I've had a morning or whatever it may be. And everyone comes over, they all give you a hug, they all say it's okay, we know what it's like, and we've all been there. And then just to have that support around you it's just the best. It honestly is. Becoming a mum, and I didn't really have that when I sort of first had Scarlett, my daughter, whereas then obviously after the other 2 kids, I've had that support around me, and it's been second to none. It's been the best. So it makes a very big difference. Like you said, the knowing smiles, and you don't have to apologize because your kid's just gone and done the exact same thing, that other kid did. And it just makes you not feel alone. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah. I remember during COVID, so many of us that were in the fitness industry and classified as non-essential workers for a very long time. We all reached out and we were all connecting with each other because we all understood the challenge of choosing to be the person that maintained a positive, uplifted attitude on socials to kind of rally our communities and be the example for how we could move at home and how we could continue to kind of, keep that positive mindset going at home. And behind the scenes, we were all kind of in the DMs together being but oh my God, how are you? Because we all knew the reality beyond the way that we were showing up for our communities. It wasn't that we were faking anything necessarily. necessarily. We were all just aware that's just one aspect of us, the part of us that can stand up as a leader and can do the things that we do really well to motivate people to move. But that's just one aspect. And there's many other aspects. And there were aspects of us that were struggling because we didn't have anybody necessarily doing that for us. So I ask you now in brighter times, hopefully, as somebody who leads and uplifts others, in what ways do you allow yourself to receive the same support, and what does that look like for you at this point in time?
So yeah, like you said, obviously during COVID, we didn't, again, you said we didn't have to. We chose to put a positive vibe out there because we knew a lot of people were struggling, and we know that exercise and moving your body is so paramount for mental health and health all over. And so one of the ways that I received that support and stuff is I also love doing going to group fitness or having a PT or whatever, so that I can also get that support. I love reaching out to other people, like you said, and other people that are within our space. And I just I guess it is hard because sometimes you get the support, or sometimes I'd get the support, and I'd almost feel not worthy. Like I'd sort of just be a little bit like, oh no, but I'm not meant to be like this. I'm not meant to be quiet. Like I'm not meant to be sad. I'm not meant to be negative. That's not my vibe. That's not the vibe that I want to put out. And so another way that I kind of dealt with that too was by being open about it. And then having that support come in as it sort of kept coming in and I kept receiving it fully, it just made me feel so much better. So I can't remember what the other question was you asked, but
Just sharing the ways that you support yourself so that you can continue to show up as a leader in the space.
oh, right. Yeah. Well, so like I said, I love moving my body myself. Sometimes it's easy to do. But today, just before I went to a gym session, like a group gym session, because I really needed that push. I really needed somebody else to tell me what to do. And a lot of the time people think PTs don't have PTs, or you can just do it all yourself, but we can't. And I've learnt that a lot, that I can't do everything on my own. So it's always nice to have that. Other ways that I'd support myself is by, doing some mindset work, journaling, meditation when I can. I try really hard to do meditation, but it can be hard with the kids. So I definitely try and help myself there. But I think, again, like I said, the last couple of months have been a real kind of page turner for me in a lot of things. And I think being kinder to myself, having some self-compassion, has been something that's been really important too. And that's helped, I guess, support me through, things that are going on right now as well.
Mm. What potential and possibility is opening up for you now that you have access to more compassion for yourself? What things are now kind of like available to you, or, more obvious to you that you might not have noticed before?
I think it's just, I've always had a limiting belief of not being enough. That's always, or, growing up, through school and through life, that's been a huge limiting belief for me. And I've been, how long have I? I've been seeing a psychologist for almost a year, I think. And that was fantastic because after I had my second daughter, I had postnatal depression and anxiety, and obviously COVID. Like it was just, the world was crazy. And so yeah, and so when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I said to myself, I need to go and see somebody, just to get a bit of a relationship up before I then have him and potentially things, happen again. So she's taught me a lot about, the self-compassion, but I think it's just, I don't know, it's just my mindset is just so different. And I feel it myself. I even said to myself today, I'm just like, oh, geez, Jess, you're feeling really good. Like your mental health is really good today. And I know it goes in waves. So I know not to expect, that it's just going to be up like this, because that is, mental health is up and down. But I feel like it's going to, I don't know what yet, but I feel like it is going to present a lot more things for me, because I'm more open to it. I'm kind of like calling, I guess, different things in, and I'm getting a clearer picture of what I want to do, a clearer picture of who I want to be, the things that I want to say, and I'm looking at the impact that I have made on people and the impact that I continue to make, and I'm really noticing that within myself I'm accepting that, whereas I used to kind of I'd hear like, like a great compliment about somebody and they love my classes, for example. And I used to like not accept it. Like I'd just be like, oh no, there's still someone that's better than me though. Like now, I'm not good enough. Whereas now I'm starting to really accept it and it's making me feel good. And I'm like, why have I wasted so much of my time with that, like that limiting belief of not being good enough when I am? And I just need to start receiving that. And it's just I know it's gonna open doors to way more than I probably ever imagined.
So beautiful. And yes. And, I think one of the things that holds us back in kind of like busting through that limiting belief that we have is that we think if we claim our own kind of like worthiness and our sense of self and our purpose, then somehow that makes us seem like we've pedestaled ourselves. Like we feel like, oh, I'm great. And I think actually it's the complete opposite. When we kind of allow ourselves to accept the greatness within ourselves, a byproduct of that is recognizing that this greatness is innate in me. It's not something that I have done. I have this giftedness, I have this skill, I have this ability that was given to me. And when we really accept that for ourselves, what we get to do is recognize, well, if that's within me, it's actually within everybody.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I think so, like, and that's what I'm starting to see as well. Like, the more that I guess I'm a bit more, not confident, but just more, I guess, expressive and, when I'm more accepting, like, people and my clients are the same. They are noticing more about themselves. They are, saying, sending me messages saying, oh my gosh, I feel, so good today. And I'm noticing differences. And I do believe that confidence and that, like you said, it is a byproduct when you start to see that and you start to talk about it. You're not bragging about it. You're not boasting, saying, look at me, I'm so good. But it's kind of giving people permission to then also go, oh yeah, like I feel like that. Like it's okay for me to also say that, because then you kind of keep it all in. And then I think that's when those limiting beliefs can, yeah, like you said, it can stop you from taking your next to the next level.
Just expressing and exploring, because, a lot of our curiosity needs to be kind of like realized and actualized for us to kind of know more of who we are. I think the thing that holds people back, particularly women back, is that we think our confidence is going to be found in the understanding or realizing of like, oh, this is who I am. Okay, this is what I should do now because now I know. And I don't think it works like that. I think we have to cultivate some courage to like try and express and explore. And our confidence comes in the witnessing of like, oh, wow, I can be a person that does this. And this feels really good. And this feels really natural. And that's how we discover who we are. We never discover more of who we are by sitting and contemplating like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be?
No, yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, taking, like you said, you don't just get there once. You don't go, oh, this is who I am, and then kind of sit there. Like you discover yourself all the time, I believe, anyway. And in 10 years' time, it could feel like a completely different person to who I am now, but they'll always still be who you are. And that's something me and my psychologist spoke about as well, about labels and how we have all these labels on ourselves. And the first one, you'd do the same. If I said, who are you? You'd probably say, a mum, or, like you sort of say, well, I'm a mum, I'm a PT, I am, a wife. That's what I sort of said to her. And then she kind of rattled off a few other things. And so I said some descriptive words. And then she said, well, what happens when all those are gone? And you're like, well, nothing. I'm no one. And she goes, well, you're not. You're you. You're still you. You're still there. And you get to choose what labels you put on yourself. Labels like a mum, that's a little bit different because when you're a mum, you're a mum. And you're always going to be, and that's a label that I want to wear. But the other labels you get to choose. And that's changed my perspective on things too. I don't have to be, not enough. I can be enough. I don't have to be XYZ. I can be certain things that I believe I am. And it doesn't matter what other people think or the labels that other people put on me. If I don't want those labels, I don't need them. And I think that that's a big mindset shift that I've had as well.
And I think the more that we embrace that as something to play with, the more we really realize how safe it is to let ourselves like shift and change and evolve, not just like every decade, but like every day. We actually have the opportunity. I'm about to share some content on socials today. This is such a perfect conversation.
Yes, good.
I've been playing with the expression that I'm allowing to come through me. What we wear and what we look like has nothing to do, I think, with the expression that matters most. But for a lot of women, what we've allowed ourselves to kind of wear and the way that we present to the world has been a reflection of how confidently or how creatively we have felt we are able to express ourselves in the world. So I've really been playing lately with like, what clothes do I feel like wearing? Not what looks good on me, what suits me, what makes sense for the me that I've presented to the world. What would feel fun? Like I'm just in this real chapter of like what would feel so bright and fun, and that's where I'm at. And so I've been ordering the most like obnoxiously loud and bright things to wear and just really fucking around with it and
Yeah.
playing with it and taking a photo of myself and going like, that's, you get to be her. It's
Yeah.
not a dream. Like you get to do that. And so
Yeah.
I think what you're sharing is so beautiful, because what we also get to do is not consider what label do I want. We get to be the evolution and the creation of the thing,
Yeah.
of the thing. So often we're hopping out of one box and getting into another.
Yeah.
We're getting into a mold that somebody else has made for
Yeah.
us. And I
Yeah.
think that's easier.
Yeah.
That's easier than trusting that, like, oh, my own creative expression is going to be accepted too.
Oh, and that's what scares people. They don't think it'll be accepted, and again, like you don't think, yeah, you have a mold of what, it should be or what people think that you should be. But then when you're not that, how are people going to, accept it? And some people won't, some people will, but it's about you accepting it yourself. That is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, doesn't matter about what other people think.
And
But
I
I
think
love that. I'm not much of a color wearer gal, but I do love I love it when I see people, like when I see women wearing like beautiful, colorful clothes that I wouldn't wear myself. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's so good.
And I think we all find our expression in different ways. For some people, it's like the way that they cook, or the way that they speak, or the music they listen to, or what they choose to put in their house. Like it doesn't have to necessarily, I'm having fun with clothes at the moment because that's
Yeah,
where I'm at. It doesn't have to be that. But I think it's a really beautiful thing to actively encourage ourselves. I say to just like fuck shit up, just like be in that season of like, let's just see,
yeah,
let's see. And I think we almost get like a new energy throughout our whole life when we realize like I've been so busy up until this point trying to fit in.
mm,
Oh my God, now watch me try and like just stand out from
yeah,
myself, not anybody else. Like try and see how it can feel if I decide like who I've been's been perfect, but also there's so much more. And I want to use this one beautiful life to play every different character that can come through me that would ever be possible, you
yeah.
know?
I think yeah, I love that. I think that that's great. And that's, like I said, I've been feeling that way, similar way too, where I feel like I'm kind of going out of that mold of what I always thought that I would be, what my parents thought that I would be, friends, whatever. And I'm kind of going out of that and I'm loving it. And I'm finding that I'm not worrying about what other people, are thinking. I'm just doing it and I feel good. And I think, yeah, I love that. It's so important.
This is such a beautiful conversation. I'm mindful of time because I've got to go soon. But I'm wondering if you had the same experience or a similar experience where we get to a point where we realize, like, oh, the roadmap that I had been given, or maybe that I drew for myself, or where I thought I was, going to go and who I was going to be, didn't actually lead me anywhere that I want to stay. There's almost like a deep grief associated with that, and a
Yeah.
deep sadness and a loss. And you feel really disoriented, like, oh, I've put so much effort, time, energy, resources into being who I am. And actually, I don't think it suits me. I don't think I like it.
Yeah.
And so I want to highlight, like I'm talking about, like, oh, I'm having so much fun playing with my expression. But there was a whole season, years before that, that saw me really disoriented and
Yeah.
really sad about that and really angry about that, to be honest. Have you had a similar experience or hear anything in that?
Yeah, I've probably had a similar experience. So I grew up in a religious family, a Christian family, and so all of my whole life until I was, 18, 19 was spent in church. Nothing super duper full on, but that was a big part of my life. And I went over to the Philippines. I've been there 3 times. We did mission trips over there. I was speaking God's word and reading the Bible, and I was sharing, all these things with, people over there and within my school and all this stuff. And so I guess growing up, I always just had it in my head that I would I would marry a Christian, and I would continue going to church, and like, not that I really thought too much about kids and stuff at that age, because I truly didn't. But I remember when I sort of started turning 17, 18, and I was working at Macca's, and I was like becoming friends with people and with kids outside of my school. I went to a Christian school too. I just sort of started to get like find myself kind of wishing that I was, able to go out to parties, and I was able to do XYZ. And I kind of had a bit of a shift in identity, I guess, between, those years. And it was always really hard because, it broke my family's heart, like, my parents, and they've said that before. And, obviously that's never a nice feeling. But at the same time, it wasn't me. Like, that just kind of wasn't me. And it was like, it was for a long time. And then again, it kind of I started to go out of that. And I definitely lost myself for a bit, though. I was in a pretty toxic relationship. And so I kind of lost myself over those years. And as soon as I got out of that relationship, I felt so much better and clearer, and all these things. My relationship with my parents and my family was so much better. So there was a good chunk of years where I kind of lost myself a lot. But like you said, with the grief, there still were times then when I would grieve that sort of that roadmap that I thought maybe my life would be, the picture perfect kind of, Christian life and church, and, a Christian husband, and all this sort of stuff. So, whereas now I'm very, very happy with where I'm at. And I know a lot more about just life and stuff. But yeah, no, you're right. There is definitely a bit of grief, a bit of grieving there for a life that maybe you thought was going to happen. And yeah, I don't regret anything, but there's still definitely times, especially the biggest one would be, I guess, not being the person that my parents thought that I would become, even though I know that I'm so much, and they know that too. They love me more than anything. But yeah, I guess that's always used to play on my mind, that, oh, I've let them down. And so that was always really hard too.
So powerful. When I moved to Geelong, I changed my life in a really big way, like literally a life transplant. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm slightly different. Like, everything about the foundations of who I was, who I am, how I spend my time, what I value, how I work, everything is different. And this life I have is a conscious choosing, but I still find myself having these moments of like panic and anxiety where I look around at my life that is so different from what I had been positioned to want and create and to desire. And I have these moments where I'm like, is it safe here? Because I had rehearsed in my mind for my whole life up until I was 30 years old what my life was going to be, what it was going to look like, what it was going to feel like. I had seen it, I had rehearsed it, I had lived it. And so to be living an entirely different existence, even though I love it, even though I choose it, it still doesn't feel like it's like completely woven into the fabric of my being yet. It still feels like something I'm trying on. And I share this very transparently because, I do share quite openly. I feel so grateful now to love my life so much.
Yeah.
When there were periods of my life where I truly didn't, and I truly didn't value my own life. So to be here now, you better believe I'm celebrating it, and I'm giving thanks for it. But also it still feels really just confronting and scary, and I guess discombobulating sometimes to be like, do I really get to live this life?
Yeah. And I think that I feel I'm very similar too, but because I think life can just change in an instant. I do believe that our life is planned out for I do believe that our life is planned out for us, and everything that happens in our life happens for a reason. And so I know that I'm here right now doing what I'm doing, living my life the way that I'm living, because that's what that's what God's plan for me is. And I'll always truly believe that. But life can happen like that. And and it is a bit scary, and it is a bit like, hang on a second, like sometimes you can go, okay, I love my life, but it's so good. What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? And I find myself being very similar, going, something's got to go wrong. I'm like, surely something, and then nothing does. And I just, again, it's hard to, I guess, it is a bit of an anxiety thing, like you said.
Can I ask, and please feel free to say, like, I'd prefer not to share, but Are you a person that prays? Do you have regular communication with God or source or anything like that at the
I
moment?
do. I do. I don't probably not regularly. But it is something that I do believe in. I definitely do believe the power of prayer is huge, and I believe that because I've seen it. And I've definitely seen, I've seen things happen, that, and I've felt things happen that, people I feel like wouldn't understand unless they'd been in that position before, in the sort of the church position, or maybe they believe themselves. So it's not regular though, it's not every day or anything, but I do when I feel called to, and when I feel like I need some direction, or I need to pray over family or friends or whatever it may be. I always do, and I love it because it's so easy. It's such an easy thing, in my opinion, to do. And I know there is power in it. So, and I love that I got brought up knowing that. And I do love that I got brought up with, knowing that belief. And I still choose to believe that.
Do you feel like the devotion to the church that was instilled in you as a child has supported you in being able to devote yourself to other areas of your life as an adult?
Um, yes and no. I think it was hard. Um, for me, I saw, I didn't see church as a chore, but I did see it as something that I just had to do because my parents did. It wasn't so much a devotion. I didn't find myself, necessarily wanting to go. And especially even when I turned 18, I was still going. And when I lived at home, I was still going. And there were so many times when I was like, I don't want to go. And there was different aspects of it though. Sunday church, we went to a pretty, not an old church, but it was just a little bit, not really my vibe. But then I would go then to youth group, or I'd go, to church with friends or something, and it'd be completely different. And I was definitely more devoted to that because I felt that called to me more. And it was, it was for youth. And I'd always kind of wished that we went to a church that had, more young kids, and, the music was like crazy and all of that sort of stuff. But I think seeing my parents' devotion to church is definitely, that's very inspiring, and I love that, and I absolutely have loved that, their devotion for that. I guess just for me, it did feel like a bit of a chore. Whereas I know now, and what I believe now is that, church isn't everything, in my relationship with God, and my relationship with God is between me and God and nobody else. And so I can have that relationship and I can have that devotion in other ways. It doesn't mean that I have to go to church. I can do it in so many different ways and still have that. And yeah, I think my parents definitely, I definitely am inspired by their devotion to church. I do love it, but for me, I just didn't find it. Maybe I was like, oh yeah, I don't know. It was just more of a chore, I think, for me. So yeah.
Recently, my parents visited from Sydney, and they had found in their basement or wherever they store everything at the moment, this little like a binder of letters that my grandparents had written me. I must have been like 7 years old, and my grandparents lived about 5 hours away from us.
Yeah.
And so I was like writing them letters at 7 years old, I guess encouraged to practice my writing or whatever. And so my grandparents were responding to the letters, really beautiful, handwritten. And it feels like that's like a thing of the past almost, to have these like handwritten letters in their writing. And both my grandparents have passed. So to receive these letters felt just so special. And in the letters, my I should say my grandparents were like devout Catholics, like very, very religious people, very devoted to the church, all of that. And I was never. I was christened, but wasn't raised in the church, never really vibed with any of the teachings. And in these letters, bless my grandfather, he would write a little paragraph about like, how he was, what was happening, and then would use the opportunity, I guess, to communicate with me through parable, through story. He'd share some Bible teaching. And I remember receiving those letters, and I probably did not even read it. I remember just cringing, rolling my eyes, always being very annoyed by any time that he wanted to share some sort of parable or story with us. But receiving these letters and looking at it as a 36-year-old woman, what I really appreciated in that was I couldn't relate to his love for the church or his understanding of, the Bible or his religion or whatever, but to see his devotion And to see the time he took to share what was important to him and to try and transmute that to his granddaughter, it just touched me in a way that I thought, like, wow, I really all this time thought I had nothing in common with you because I didn't share the same faith as you. But actually, your devotion and your audacity to just speak so openly, my God, like I can relate to that
Yeah.
so deeply. So it's been
Yeah.
a really beautiful thing. Also, I can hear my microphone's giving me some back noise. Oh, I'll pull my microphone out. 1 second. Let me just check I'm still here. Yeah. It's been a really beautiful thing for me to just see it through fresh eyes. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that happens as we get older and as we see the world in different ways and as we get to understand ourselves a little more. We get to go back and look at things from our past with fresh eyes and a new perspective and take something else away from it, you know?
Yeah, well, like you said, now that you've just said that though, that's very now that I do look at that, I do think, my mum in particular, her devotion, like, she'll she is very, very, very devoted to God and her faith. And, she'll post things on Facebook and stuff and, even message us every now and then. And yeah, sometimes it's a little bit like, oh, thanks for the reminder or whatever. But now that you've said that, it is very true that I guess I do see my devotion to what I'm passionate about. And like you said, she's so free in what she says, and I'm also the same. So, and oh, actually, no, she's probably more free because she, will share and share and share, and I'm just starting to, get a bit more sharey about, kind of everything and my opinion and everything like that. But yeah, that's true. Actually, now that you've said that, I do see that now too.
And I think what's important for us to also realize and remember and not wear it like, oh God, that feels like pressure, but let it liberate us a little more that our example is what is going to be given to our children. And one day they'll be talking about us. And like, I hope that my son, like my mum was such a weirdo, but that's given me the freedom to do whatever I want to do as well. That's my hope,
I'm the same, and I think that's why I'm very passionate about empowering, other mums and other women, to talk and to, level up and all of those things because I want my kids to do that too. I want my daughters to be able to speak and to be able to speak up and to be able to stand up for themselves and feel confident doing that, and lead their life the way that they choose to and feel called to because that isn't necessarily something that I felt I was able to do in lots of different ways, whether it was through school or when it was in my 20s when I wasn't in a very good relationship and all of those sorts of things. So I want them to I feel like everything that I do is something that I hope that my kids will learn from and will be able to see and be a role model for them too.
Our generation has like something very interesting occurring. Like now more than ever, we're very fortunate that our parents will live probably a really long time if they're healthy and they're lucky and blessed and all of that. But I think a byproduct of that is for a lot of us, we don't realize like we're fully grown adults now. Like the baton has been passed to us. Like now is our time. We still feel like children because we have parents.
Yes, so true.
So it's important to remind ourselves sometimes like no one's going to tap us on the shoulder and say like, okay, it's time to be all that you get to be in this life. Like we just have to kind of decide and declare for ourselves like, oh shit, this is my life, it's happening now.
I know that is so true. Sometimes I feel so young still, and I'm just like you said, we aren't kids anymore, and that's exciting. Like that's exciting because we get to do and be whoever we want to be and get to say and do whatever we want to say. And I think that's exciting.
Me too. Jess, I love that we had no idea where this conversation was going
to. No idea.
Love it. I love it.
Sense.
Where can women reach out and connect with you and find you? And particularly if they're in Geelong and they have a little one and they think, yep, I need to plug into a fitness community that will hold me and my crazy children, where can
so they can find me on Instagram at Fuel Fitness by Jess or just Fuel Fitness on Facebook. And I've also got another Instagram handle, which is the Empowered Mums Club, which is going to be a new little something that which I am not slowly, but I am working on. So I'm very excited about that. And that, again, like you said, now that I'm starting to discover so much more about myself, there's a lot more things that are going to happen. And so I'm very excited about that. So you can also see on there and join on there too. But yeah, that's me.
Great handle. I love that. Empowered Mums Club.
I like it as well. So I'm very excited about that.
That is super cool. All right. Well, I'll have to have you back on again and we'll have to talk about that more once you
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we popped your podcast cherry.
Well, so good. I love it. Could have kept talking for bloody ages though. I'm a bit of a talker.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.